Welcome back, everybody. Today we'll be discussing the Jordan 11 Cherry. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether you should sell or hold Jordan 11 Cherry and why that is. To preface this, if you guys enjoy these types of videos regarding the market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you're always 100% updated. Furthermore, for more urgent updates like the recent shock drops we've seen, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and personals for you. And of course, for early information before these drops actually occur, Endurance has your back, such as the shock drop for these Jordan 11 Cherries. In fact, Endurance will be restocking this Wednesday, December 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Follow the Twitter if you're interested. For those who don't know, the Jordan 11 Cherry releases on December 10th, tomorrow. However, they did already have a shock drop where they released over 150,000 men's pairs alone. Retail will be $225 on men's sizes, $185 on grade school, $100 in preschool, and $80 in toddler. We'll be focusing on the men's pairs today. Stock on these is absolutely massive, like many holiday 11s, at over 700,000 pairs between all sizes. In order to determine if the Jordan 11 Cherry will be a fruitful hold, we will cover an estimated range of what the sneaker will settle at after the drop and also when the shipments come in, essentially the pair is going into circulation, whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over specific periods of time, and finally, what type of margin are we looking at for these in terms of holding. Not the retail to resale initial margin, but rather just the hold margin over X period of time. Basically, even if these do go up, are they going to be worth your time? Kicking it off, let's discuss the estimated range that these should be settling at. To begin with, again, stock for these is very high at over 700,000 pairs between all sizes. This isn't anything new for holiday 11s. In fact, it's actually notably less than prior mass releases such as the Jordan 11 Concord or Jordan 11 Bread, which had over 1 million and 1.5 million total pairs respectively, at least according to rumors back then. Hence, this large stock will inevitably negatively impact the value on these. However, in addition to the massive stock, like many holiday Jordan 11s, demand is also extremely high on these. While I would say demand is lower than the Concords, the Breads, and the recent Cool Grays, the massive demand is impressive nonetheless, and it should be somewhat proportional to the stock levels. This is certainly reflected in the absolutely massive amount of sales we're seeing pre-drop, despite the fact that pre-sale is quite high. However, as you can see, it also appears lower than the recent Jordan 1 Lost and Found. If you recall from that video regarding the Jordan 1 Lost and Found, there were so many sales within one single hour that StockX didn't even load all of them. Although, considering one single hour takes up the majority of sales data for this pair, it's still certainly respectable, especially with the prices being just below $300. Unfortunately, the worst part about these is that the retail is $225. Assuming you cop somewhere with free shipping or in-store, without tax, you should be able to make a little bit of profit with a subpar margin. But if you have tax, only expect lunch money with a poor margin on the large sizes. I actually like these low margin drops because money can be made on them if you stick to the big sizes, and you can get a lot of pairs, so that really does add up. So yes, not the best margin, but you can still come out with this drop making a lot of money. That is, of course, if you do try to stick to the larger sizes. Now, regarding a specific range, prices have already seen the vast majority of their pre-drop decrease since it is the day before, although I would expect another 2 to 3% decrease later tonight as the Flex app reservations do go out. Nonetheless, this leaves the current average at about $288 for sizes 8 to 12, but of course, this is only the pre-drop average. And remember, we just use sizes 8 to 12 because it keeps a more consistent average. Some of the very big sizes can throw off the mean. We normally see a notable change post-US drop. This is when we normally experience what I like to refer to as the impulsivity effect. Guess you know what I'm referring to by now, as we discuss this very frequently, yet it almost always occurs to some degree. Regarding the impulsivity effect, if you haven't watched my seller hold videos before, sneaker drops specifically impact human impulsiveness significantly after an individual fails to acquire that desired product due to insufficient supply and too much demand. Therefore, on average, we normally see about a 5 to 10% increase of the pre-drop prices post-drop. When it comes to these, while the stock is high, I believe there is sufficient demand to still provoke a typical 10% impulsivity effect from the pre-drop prices, especially because there are already a lot of pairs in circulation from the shock drop, so they could be slightly oversold at the moment. However, as I stated earlier, I am still expecting prices to fall a little bit more later tonight, so for the purpose of the calculation we're doing with the current prices, we'll just use 5%. and keep it conservative. Nonetheless though, it's still a positive impulsivity effect, which I am expecting. This could potentially leave prices at about $302 on average from sizes 8 to 12, so larger sizes should hang in the low 300 range, and the bigger ones potentially a little bit higher. Remember though, this is just temporary. Now, let's discuss what prices will look like once shipments go out in the 1 to 2 week range. During this period, the vast majority of pairs will be going into circulation. As usual for general releases, I'd expect the typical 10% decrease. While yes, these do have a ton of stock, as I've been emphasizing, the demand is also huge. Hence, I wouldn't expect anything abnormal here, despite the huge stock going into circulation. Especially because there's already a whopping 150,000 pairs of the men's sizes alone already out there from the shock drop. This would then hypothetically leave prices at about $272, so larger sizes should still hover in the upper 200s, a bit lower than what we see currently, and the smaller sizes should land somewhere in the mid 200 range. Hence, this is why I suggest focusing on the large sizes for this drop. Now that the average price ranges at those points in time are evident though, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase from the post-shipment prices or even hypothetically continue to decrease. I think the obvious comparison here is any prior mass-produced holiday Jordan 11. The most recent example we have is the Jordan 11 Cool Gray, and for some more long-term data, we have the Concord and Bred 11s, both available as well. All of these had very high stock and very high demand as well. Considering the Cool Grays started off high, they actually began by decreasing for a bit, but as of recently, they have just started increasing again. On the other hand, long term, after just about that 1 year period, we could certainly see that the Concord and Bred have began increasing, and it looks like the Cool Gray are now at that starting point. Hence, I would say that I'm expecting these to actually plateau, not really go anywhere after the post-shipment range, essentially just stay stagnant for quite a while. But long term, they should begin to increase like what we're seeing on those Concord or Bred 11s and what's beginning to happen on the Cool Gray 11s. Finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially, are these going to be worth your time even when they do eventually increase? Considering I'm expecting to see a pretty long plateau on these, perhaps for around a year, that certainly wouldn't allow for any good ROI in the short term. Long term though, if these manage to touch the upper 300s or optimistically 400 eventually, even then, the ROI after that long period would just be about 30%, and that's good, but for the amount of time you'll have to wait, perhaps there may be better options to hold, hence the purpose of the rating system, because we could only put our capital in so many things. You gotta pick and choose. Hence, I would rate these below average at 4 out of 10, so not terrible, but also not ideal, mostly because of the long plateau period I'm expecting. Personally, I'll be quick selling all of my pairs during the impulsivity effect, and I'll also keep the pair I already have from the shock drop for the toe, because I'm actually a pretty big fan of these. Also, just a note in general for anyone considering holding any items who does have low capital, you should never hold anything in general if you don't have sufficient capital to go for as many drops as possible at your full potential without holding back. If you do need money to go for all drops, try to sell these as soon as possible. Let me know what you guys are doing with your pairs down in the comments below. Since this is just a discussion at the end of the day, I can't predict the future. This is just my personal analysis based on the data that I've acknowledged. We have a lot of brilliant minds watching the video right now, so I'd love to hear your notions down in the comments below. But anyway, that will conclude it for today. So feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed, or perhaps if you learned a thing or two, subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you stay 100% updated on all hype releases. Also, don't forget that Endurance will be restocking this Wednesday, December 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Follow the Endurance Twitter if you are interested. You could also now join eDeals with the link in the description below for only $14.99 per month. Furthermore, feel free to follow Gargantua AIO on Twitter if you're interested in any upcoming restocks for that as well. And last but not least, make sure to follow Keep That 10 and Personals for You. This way you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was going over today. With that though, I'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.